statement that we issued this morning. I met with Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll Friday afternoon for several hours, after which had a conversation with Steve Tisch, and we spoke some more over the weekend, and just came to the decision that staying with both of them is the best course of action for us right now. I think in Brian's case, he was the coach of the year 2 years ago. That didn't disappear all of a sudden. I still believe he can do that again. And in Joe's case, I thought we had an outstanding draft class this year. I thought we had a really good free agency period, and I really like the staff that he's put together and built. And I think that they're the right two guys to lead us going forward. I understand, believe me, that that's not going to be the most popular decision in Giant Land, but we believe it's the right decision for us going forward. So with that, I thought I'd come out and face the music and listen to your questions.
John, what is your message to Giants fans who are very frustrated right now?
Nobody's more frustrated and upset than I am. I appreciate the fact that they have come in here with us. I get your frustrations, I feel your pain, but I still believe this is the right decision for us going forward.
I know you said, John, that you said that Brian's coach of the year, great draft class, but the you guys won 3 games. So how does that all connect?
I'm aware of how many games we've won, and obviously the results are not even close to what we want them to be, and they're going to have to get better if we're going to move on to year 4.
John, after the season last year, you always say, I need to see progress, I need to see the arrow pointing up, I need to see improvement. What signs are there with a 3-win team that any of that has taken place?
I mean, certainly the signs were not based on our record. However, in Joe's case, I think the draft class that we had was really productive. I think all 6 of those guys are going to help us a great deal. I thought the free agency brought in, including Brian Burns, were really a big plus. And I think the staff that he's assembled around him and the process that we go through now, the information that we have in making personnel decisions is better than I've ever seen it before. And in Brian Daboll's case, listen, I'm at practice all the time. I go to the team meetings. I watch the players. I watch how they react. I still think he's the right guy to lead us. If I'm sitting here a year from now, you're asking me these questions, I'll take the heat. But at the end of the day, we've got to make a decision, and we've made one.
John, is this really a 2-year commitment to them? Because I think back to when you had Daniel Jones and you said, we've done everything to screw him up, firing the coach after a rookie quarterback. If you're going to draft a rookie quarterback and then change the head coach and GM after that, is this really a 2-year commitment to them?
I understand the question, but I'm not going to put any kind of time limit on it, but I certainly understand where you're going with that.
John, you do need a quarterback, so how important is that decision going to be to keeping them here and seeing what they can do?
That's obviously the number one issue for us going into this offseason, is to find our quarterback of the future. Whether that be via the draft or acquiring a veteran is going to be up to them to decide ultimately.
John, you talked about the process being good, the coach having it in there, the free agency being good, their process, all this stuff. How do you justify, how did you get to 3-14 then?
Because we stunk this year. Okay, the results on the field were not what we wanted them to be. There were a number of factors that went into that. A lot of that has already been discussed with the coach and with Joe, and will continue to be discussed. And but I liked what I heard from them on Friday afternoon. I like what their plan is going forward, and we're going to stay with it.
What did they tell you? People have trouble separating the two.
I understand that. Believe me, I understand that. It's a bottom line business. You're judged on what your record is, and our record is pretty lousy right now. And I get that, and I take responsibility for that. But again, when you make these changes, and God knows we've made them in the past and been impatient in the past, and when you do that, you feel like you take 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And I just didn't want to fall into that cycle again. I wanted to give people a chance to build this thing the right way and to get us to where we need to be.
Why do you believe you're building it the right way?
One at a time.
Why do you believe you're building it the right way when it's gone from 9-7-1, 6-11, 3-14?
I certainly can't justify it based on the records, but again, based on my observation of how they work together, of how the players respond to them, and how Joe is going about building the roster going forward, it's my instinct and my strong belief that that we are going to go in the right direction. It's hard for me to say we're going in the right direction right now because we've been going backwards, and nobody feels that any more than I do. Okay, I hate having to go through this process. I hate having to answer these questions, but at the end of the day, you got to take a calm, rational look at things, and we did that, and this is the decision that we came up with.
What did they share with you Friday that gives you the confidence?
I'm not going to go into all the details.
But fans are going to want to hear something.
I understand that. Obviously, the quarterback is the big issue, and maybe he makes some other changes in the way he operates going forward. I've talked to him about. Do you really believe that it's in our best interest for you to continue calling the plays? I said, I'm not going to demand that you do one thing or the other, but are you better off letting somebody else call the plays? And that's a discussion that we're going to continue to have. There are issues like that we have to have some further discussion about. But at the end of the day, he's got to make the decision on whether he does that, on whether he wants to make replacements in the staff. That's got to be his decision at the end of the day.
John,
What
did
are
these
some of
come
the
back?
other
Did these guys come back on a hot seat?
I'll come back to you in a second.
Did these guys come back on a hot seat now?
You guys are going to have him number one on the hot seat going forward. So no matter how I answer that
In
question,
your mind?
we're going to have to see. I'm going to have to be in a better mood this time next year than I am right now.
John, was
Beyond
the
the-
money remaining?
I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were next.
beyond quarterback and play calling? What are some of those other issues that you see need to be dealt with?
I mean, quite frankly, I didn't think our defense played very well this year at all. I know that when you have an offense that performs like that, you're putting more pressure on your defense, but we need to make improvements there. I'm tired of watching teams go up and down the field on us. So I think that has to be addressed. I think, we need some more depth in the offensive line. But number one thing certainly is the quarterback.
John, what
John,
gives you
how long-
confidence this
how-
roster is better than it was 3 years ago when these two took over this team?
I'm not sure I am all that confident that it's that much better. I think, though, with the draft class that we just had, again, it's very unusual. You have 6 draftees, all of whom you think are going to help us going forward. I thought that was a huge step. And the free agents that we picked up between Runyon and bringing Brian Burns in here, I think those are really going to help us going forward. I think once you solve the quarterback issue, I think a lot of these other things will improve as well.
I guess when a fan sees that, hears that though, that you're not confident the roster is better 3 years after they've been in charge. I mean,
How can I say that it's better if we win 3 games? We need to win more games for us to be able to prove that point. But there's just a better feeling in the building now that we've got the right pieces in place. We have a lot of holes to fill, and that's what this offseason is going to be about.
How long will it take to improve the product, John?
It better not take too long, Bruce, because I've just about run out of patience.
John, two
That'd
more
be a good
questions.
soundbite for you tonight. Huh?
Yeah.
Is the money remaining on their contracts a factor? There was a report
Absolutely
that you
not.
had a problem with.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's never been a factor in any coaching decision that we've ever made here.
John, you
John,
talk about
at
how
the
important
end-
the quarterback position is. You had the number 1 pick 2 weeks ago, and then you win the Colts game, and then it seemed like you didn't go all out yesterday. Like, why not have just tanked if you knew they were coming back?
If I had thought that we were tanking either one of those games, I would have fired everybody. We are never going to do that in this organization as long as I'm standing on this side of the grass.
John,
you
the
said
planes.
that-
John,
you
did you
said
have,
that.
we didn't get to talk to you after the planes. How much did that bother you? And what was,
Listen, I didn't need planes flying over me to tell me how upset the fans are. I hear from them every day. So that really did not have much of an effect. I get how upset they are. I try to respond to them. Nobody was more upset than I am about how we performed in recent years. And, I have to stand up here and take the heat for that.
Big failure of this regime was the Daniel Jones contract. I think the question is, how much of a hand did ownership have in that deal? Are you absolving them of that mistake?
No. Listen, we made a decision at the end of the 22 season based on how Daniel had played that we were going to sign him to that contract. I approved that, and we live with the results.
John, when you
Last
say you
one,
believe in Joe and Dave's after speaking with them on Friday, after watching them, but you also do not want a starting over process, you've been through this process enough. Is it more belief in them than the pain of having to start over? or is it not wanting to start over?
I think it's a combination of things. It's a belief in them, number one, but number two, I think when you start over, you really set yourselves back. And when you have a belief in the two individuals that are leading the organization, you have to have the patience to stay with it. And again, if I'm standing here a year from now and we're having the same conversation, I'll take the heat for it. But I still think we still believe that it's the right decision going